So what I'll do is I will read out the question and I will tell the answer. I don't know who is asked that question, but does the value proposition necessarily need to reflect the original purpose of the venture? The answer is no. Okay, the value proposition reflects the current product or solution that you're pitching. So your value proposition will keep changing as you try to evolve the product, okay, or as you try to do iterations, as you try to pivot, and it will always reflect the the current product or solution that you're pitching. The second question is, how important is it to have relationships and legacy, especially in context of first-time founders? Okay, you don't need any legacy for a B2C startup. Okay, but if you are a B2B startup, the legacy context will help you disrupt that legacy. Okay, so that's why knowledge of that legacy is important. Okay, but not too much, as I said earlier, because too much knowledge is the curse of knowledge, right? Because your mind is now so programmed that you can't think disruptively. The third question is, how important is to have first-time founders and full-time founders or employees at early stage, considering bootstrap mode? Very important. Okay, if a startup comes to me where the founders are not full-time, I will not touch the startup with a 10-foot long barge pole. Okay, which it shows that they don't have confidence in doing that startup. They have to take the leap. How solid does 10x need to be? Also, how to get a seed investor when there is hardly any revenue? You don't jump to seed right away, okay? You have to show that you have the ability to raise money. So how do you do that? First, you have to raise money from friends and family. Okay, that's the easiest way to raise the money, to go to friends and family because they trust you, right? Then you go for angel investments, okay, slightly bigger investment that you get from angels. And these angels will basically help you get to the seed fund also, okay? So you don't need to have revenue for angel funding at all, and for friends and family. Any best practices to crack hidden need for early adopter customers would be super helpful, okay? So this is a completely different topic, and this comes under the category of what we call as jobs to be done. Okay, so with your permission, Vidyut, I will share a screen and show them how this works. Okay,
Whatever you feel right, that's fine. Go for it.
so just tell me when you are able to see the screen.
Not yet. Yes.
Are you able to see the screen now?
Yes.
Oh, so basically what you're saying is, how do I find unserved needs or hidden needs of the customer? Okay. So there is a methodology called as jobs to be done. Okay. And this was introduced by Professor Clayton Christensen, who recently passed away from Harvard. And it's both a methodology and mindset to better understand, your customers. Okay. So what happens in jobs to be done is, we look at problem slightly differently. We say that people encounter situations that drive the need for a job. So customer wants to have a job done, and they are going to hire a product or service to get that job done. Okay. For example, I'm locked down in home due to COVID. Okay. How do you get my groceries? So what services do I hire? What products do I use? Okay, so online ordering and have it delivered to my door, wear a mask and gloves and go to the store and observe social distancing. So it's the same job, it can be done in different ways, right? So here is an example, okay, to answer your question. Okay, so conventional approach is customer wants a product. Okay, for example, customer want textbooks or customer want a taxi. Okay, now if you look at the jobs to be done approach, your customers want to get a certain job done. Okay, so what is the job to be done? So for your customers who want textbooks, your customers are students who want to learn a subject. Okay, so the job to be done is, how do they learn a subject? And I will take this further. Your customers want a taxi. So basically, what do your customers want? They want to go from one place to another without waiting for a public transport. And this is what changes your thinking. And so your question about how do I uncover unmet needs, or how do I discover the unmet needs. So your customers are students who want to learn a subject. Okay, so that's the job to be done. What are their unmet needs? Their frustration with textbooks when they have a question to be answered. Okay. Your customers want to go from one place to another without waiting for public transport. So what are their unmet needs? Frustration when they have to wait too long for your taxi to arrive. Okay. So, this completely changes the way you look at the problem situations or the customer jobs. Because what's important for you to understand is the basic jobs are valid over a period of time. Okay, it is usually the same job that people want done. What changes is the solution to get the job done. I'll give you an example of the music industry. Okay, you see, from gramophone record to Spotify. Okay, what changed? Okay, so then you had a gramophone record, then you wanted portability, so you got this tape. Then you wanted random access on the songs, so you got the CDs. Then you got the digital media because you wanted to store and carry it in your pocket. Okay, and now you have a library access through Spotify. Okay, so this is how you go about it, and this is something that you should do before even you jump into value proposition, according to me. So that answers that question. Let me take the next question. Seeking to understand good monopoly, it is not just evil monopoly. Do you mean something else? Okay, can you give an example of monopoly? Simple, the examples are right in front of us. There are various ways to create monopoly. Okay, Apple has created monopoly through brand. Okay, Google has created monopoly through 10x technology. Facebook has created monopoly through network. Amazon has created monopoly through economy of scale. So there are various ways to create those monopolies. You are a small startup, but for you, monopoly means building a moat which is hard for your competitors to cross. Okay, is it okay to create adoption for free or not? So adoption with zero marketing dollars is the best thing to do, and it is not impossible. I have seen a lot of startups, particularly in B2C space. They have done that. Okay, asking a generic question: when do you give up? So when multiple iterations aren't working out, talk to a good mentor or an advisor. Okay, he will help you make the call. He will tell you whether. But basically, what happens is when you start pitching, right in your first and second sessions of your cohort, I think a good mentor will be able to see through, because people like Gyani, me, Vidyut, we are all pattern recognition machines. Okay, because today morning, I saw 15 startups. Okay, so this happens almost every week. So in a month, I would be looking at something like 200 odd startups. Okay, and means either their decks or either talking to them. Talk to very few. Out of the 100, I would talk to about 10 startups and then pick one to work with. Okay, so this has given us the ability to look at startups and tell them, say, look, this is where you have holes and which you need to fix. Okay, right at the outset, and then you need to improve on those, like Gnani said, gap analysis. And if you cannot fix those gaps, then you obviously need to look somewhere else. How to maintain the balance between control and fundraising? Okay, so if you have cracked a non-linear growth engine to get profitable soon, you will retain bigger control. Okay, like Mark Zuckerberg did in the case of Facebook. Okay, but growth, usually requires funding. Okay, and so you have a trade-off between growth and profitability. Do you want more growth at the cost of profitability, or do you want profitability at the cost of growth? Okay, so early stage startups focus only on growth. Okay, and as you mature, you go into the growth and scale stage, then in growth stage you will crack the path to profitability. Okay, and then you will start going after that. So next question is, how critical is profitability in seed and series A stage? Okay, not at all. Okay, the profitability is not important, but the path to profitability is important. Do you have to wait to become profitable? Do you show the unit economics to become profitable? That is what people will look at. Okay, nobody expects you to be profitable. Then if you're profitable, great, but nobody expects you to be profitable. How important is acquisition versus retention in seed and series A stage? Sometimes retention requires organizational maturity. So at seed stage, acquisition is really important. Okay. For Series A stage, they would like to see how we are able to retain the customers, because that is going to increase the lifetime value, and that is going to bring certain predictability in the business. So repeatability, predictability, scalability, these are important things as you go into a Series A. Does the chasm apply to B2B products? Yes, it is mainly for B2B products. As I said earlier, B2C products may be able to find a tornado right from their growth hacks and viral loops and just scale it. Okay. I didn't understand this. How important is EVA in establishing customer problem fit, products problem solution fit, product market fit, and growth, and in what stage? I believe the EVA, he might be thinking of enterprise value or the valuation. Okay, so valuation is the baseline everywhere, right? Is the baseline everywhere. In very, very early stage, like angel funding, we don't even look at valuation, because there is no way to really look at the valuation. We will look at giving you safe investments, okay, that can get valued later on. So nobody wants to take that.
So just a economic value to customer is what he was asking for. The
economic value
analysis.
Yeah, economic value to customer is always important, right? Is always important, because why does the customer buy? Because he sees, there is economic value, there is social value, there is emotional value. Okay, so there are a lot of value factors. It's not always just economics. Okay, there are a lot of other value factors that you will learn in this program also. Okay, particularly, when you're trying to define the customer's job to be done, okay, there are three factors that we work on. One is functional, social, and emotional factor. Okay, for example, let me take an example. Okay, you are designing a wireless lock for your door, okay, which you can remotely open. So you are doing that because your functionality that you're looking for is, you should be able to let in your plumber in even when you are away. Okay, and keep an eye on him. So that's number one. That's functionality. Okay, I'm just giving you a wild example. Okay, the social thing is, to show people that, see, look, I have protected my home. Okay, but I'm still able to allow people into my home at will. Okay, so this is social thing that you are going to talk about. And the emotional factor is your fear, right? That you don't want intruders to get into your home, and you want a way to be able to control them. Okay, so there are various values. It's just not economic value that you should be looking at. Okay, economic value from your monetization perspective. Okay, sometimes your social values, like Facebook, okay, the data that you're collecting, you saw the virtuous cycle, they bring about the economic value. So these are two-stage monetization. So you are basically creating, in Facebook, you're creating an intermediate asset, and that asset is the eyeballs, or number of people who are coming there. Okay, and then you are monetizing those eyeballs, okay, with ads that you are showing them. So that's the monetization aspect. So there are, when we talk about marketplaces, that should become clear. What is the difference between software and support business? Okay, so interesting question. Right now everybody is in a SaaS mode, so nobody understands this. But for example, you bought Windows Office, okay, and installed it on your computer. Okay, and you downloaded and installed on your computer, and you paid that one-time fee. That is software. And if they charge you for supporting that on every year, they say, okay, you pay 10%, that's the support, because they are offering you support on that. Okay, so that is the difference. So how does a B2B2C business get evaluated? Okay, is it closer to B2C? They get evaluated on both aspects, but more emphasis on B2B, because you are selling on B2B. And finally, that business is selling it to the customer. So you have to have your eye on the customer, because ultimately the success of that customer is going to drive the stickiness of your product. Okay, but you are selling primarily to a distributor who's selling it to the consumer. So you need to focus, your emphasis should be on your B2B per se. When do you hire a sales leader? Excellent question. Okay, so you hire obviously a sales leader when you go into the growth stage. Okay, so that's when you hire. And what does your sales leader look like? Okay, so a lot of people make these mistakes. Okay, there are two mistakes that people do. They try to hire a junior sales guy, okay, who will help me with sales. That's not the way that you should ideally do. You need to hire a sales leader. Okay, and the second thing that people do is they hire too many salespeople, okay, without having set up the process. So first, get a sales leader who understands sales process, who understands buying process of the customer, who can build a playbook, okay, who understands the stages of your sales, and who knows what collaterals, what demos, are required to support that. And he is the one who can hire people, and he is the one who can forecast your sales. Okay, that's the profile of a sales leader. Where are my customers? On which channel it would be nice to focus? This all depends on your startup, right? If you're selling $1 million product, then obviously feet on the street, account management, will play a significant role. If you're selling a product that costs only $10, then obviously your channel will be through a SaaS model, right? It will be completely digital web model. You don't have money to spend on the salesperson. So these were the questions, Vidyut. Over to you.
Thanks, Sudhir.